As expected, Ghislaine Maxwell took the fifth and refused to answer any questions. This obviously is very disappointing. We had many questions to ask about the crimes she and Epstein committed, as well as questions about potential co-conspirators. Her attorney said that she would answer questions if she were granted clemency by the president. Trump.
That's right. Jeffrey Epstein's longtime companion and pedophile co-conspirator, Ghislaine Maxwell, has refused to answer questions before the House Oversight Committee and invoked her Fifth Amendment rights. Now, as you just heard from Oversight Committee Chair James Comer, the only way she will cooperate and talk is if President Donald Trump grants her clemency, which would be insane given the fact that she has committed crimes that are unworthy of such forgiveness, let's just put it that way. So Ghislaine's lawyer also posted a copy of his statement about this on social media, writing that if this committee and the American public truly want to hear the unfiltered truth about what happened, there is a straightforward path. Ms. Maxwell is prepared to speak fully and honestly if granted clemency by President Trump. Now, Trump could immediately rule out clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell, which is what a sane president would do, given the fact that she was helping Epstein procure and in some cases even rape underage girls. That's what Ghislaine Maxwell was up to. So the notion of ever granting her a pardon or clemency is absolutely crazy. And if the president was of sane mind, he would come out and say, there's no way in hell I would do something like that. But alas, we don't live in a world where our president is sane. And unfortunately, he seems to be dangling this weird carrot. And the real question here is why? Why will he continue allowing Ghislaine Maxwell to think that there is any possibility of clemency? Also, I don't think that her testimony is valuable at all. She is known to be a liar, and I don't trust her. Why would we think that Ghislaine Maxwell would ever tell us the truth about anything? I think that there are other individuals who we should be hearing from who would have some testimony that would be valuable to an investigation. And we'll get to who those people are in just a moment. But I don't think that Ghislaine Maxwell, like if that's the trade-off, if the trade-off is clemency for Ghislaine Maxwell in return for her very likely lying under oath, I won't take that deal, okay? I'm like survivor insurance from the 1990s. I can't take that ride, okay? I'm not interested. Now, so her lawyer's statement also indicated that Ghislaine Maxwell could clear both Trump and Clinton of any accusations of wrongdoing, which is already a massive red flag. So I'm not interested in her. But her lawyer also mentions that. And again, like we should really ask ourselves, do we trust Ghislaine Maxwell to tell us the truth? And why is she saying right off the bat, I can clear them of any wrongdoing? Interesting, why are you bringing that up now under this context? Now, she was, by the way, moved, as we've been talking about on the show for some months. She was moved to a minimum security prison following an interview by now Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, who used to be Trump's personal lawyer. We don't know what that exchange was like. We don't know exactly what they talked about, but what we do know is that there's a possibility some sort of deal was made because that's when Ghislaine Maxwell was moved to a security facility, which is kind of like known as the Club Med of prisons, and is now playing with puppies. A child rapist is now, in a minimum security facility playing with puppies, thanks to Donald Trump. So that's something that you should be aware of. Now, just a reminder, the whole point of pleading the fifth is to avoid self-incrimination. Now, she's already convicted, as we know. She's serving time in prison, even though it's a minimum security facility as a result of Donald Trump. And she can't be convicted again for the same crimes or tried again for the same crimes. We don't allow double jeopardy. She's going to be asked about the co-conspirators. So how is this about protecting yourself from self-incrimination when the House wants you to testify specifically about Epstein's co-conspirators? You'd be theoretically incriminating other people, depending on what that testimony ends up being. Now, Congressman Ro Khanna actually called this out in particular, and I think he makes a good point. Take a quick look.
I submitted to Comer a letter with 6 or 7 questions. Things like, who were the other co-conspirators? Who were the other men who raped these underage girls? Did she have any conversations about a deal with Donald Trump? Now, she's taken a blanket Fifth Amendment on any question. And my view is that many of my questions don't in any way incriminate her. So we'll see what she does. But there's 7 questions that I have specifically asked. And the assumption is she's pleading the fifth to each one of those. And the American people will see that there's an inconsistency. Why did she not plead the fifth when Blanche asked her questions? And now she's pleading the fifth about things that don't implicate her, but may implicate many of the other powerful people in the Epstein class that committed these crimes.
Well, the suspicion with Todd Blanche, of course, is the fact that he very likely met with Ghislaine Maxwell to make some sort of deal to ensure that nothing dirty comes out about Donald Trump. Todd Blanche wasn't there on behalf of the American people. Todd Blanche was there on behalf of his client, Donald Trump. And once, promises were made, that's likely why she was moved to a minimum security facility as a child rapist. That's what she is. She's a disgusting serial child rapist. That's Ghislaine Maxwell, who is now with a straight face asking the president of the United States for clemency. And we live in a world where we don't know whether the president will abide by that. When we should live in a world where it's abundantly clear that the president wouldn't even think about it. But unfortunately, we don't live in that world.
You know that moment right before you launch something new, that pit in your stomach? I remember when I started TYT, I thought to myself, what if no one watches? What if we run out of money tomorrow? It was scary. Still think about that every once in a while, but you push through, and having the right tools makes all the difference. Like when we launched Shop TYT, Shopify was a lifesaver. We used it and we loved it. If you're starting a business, those what ifs can be terrifying, and that's where Shopify comes in. What if I can't build a good looking website? Shopify has hundreds of templates to build a beautiful online store that actually matches your brand. What if people haven't heard of my brand? Shopify helps you to get the word out with easy to run email and social campaigns. What if I get stuck or have a question in the process? Their award-winning 24/7 support is there with expert advice. And the best part, that iconic purple Shop Pay button. It's why Shopify has the best converting checkout on the planet. Less abandoned carts, more sales for you. It's time to turn those what ifs into with Shopify today. Sign up for your $1 per month trial today at shopify.com/TYT. Go to shopify.com/TYT. That's shopify.com/TYT.
So in the meantime, members of the House Oversight Committee, including Representatives Thomas Massie and Democratic lawmaker Jamie Raskin, reviewed some unredacted Epstein files. And while I'm sure they were unable to, go through millions of unredacted files in a short period of time, Congressman Jamie Raskin left the room, spoke to press, and disclosed a little of what he learned. Take a look.
Epstein's lawyers synopsized and quoted Trump as saying that Jeffrey Epstein was not a member of his club at Mar-a-Lago, but he was a guest at Mar-a-Lago, and he had never been asked to leave. And that was redacted for some indeterminate, inscrutable reason. I know it seems to be at odds with some things that President Trump has been saying recently about how he had kicked Jeffrey Epstein out of his club or asked him to leave, and this was at least one report that appears to contradict it.
Look, I have no reason to believe that Raskin is being deceptive there, okay? He says that's what he noticed, I believe him, and again, it's just another reason why an actual in-depth investigation needs to be conducted. But that also kind of gives me a red flag, to be quite honest with you. Because here's what I'm not interested in, okay? I'm not interested in this Epstein scandal to simply be used for politicizing and attacking one party or the other. Because let's be very clear here. There are both Democrats and Republicans implicated in the Epstein files, full stop. So I am worried about this being derailed by individuals who don't really care about a real investigation. They just want to turn this into more tribal politics BS. And I've got no patience for that. Okay, there are people who should really be looked into here. Leon Black, for instance, who was one of the head honchos over at Apollo Group. He was forced to step down in 2021 after allegations of raping a 16-year-old autistic and Down syndrome girl came up. I would really like him to be looked into. I don't know what his political affiliation is. I don't really care, because for me, this is not a political story. For me, this is a story about rich, powerful people engaging in criminality, including the rape of underage girls, and essentially having a cabal of politicians and powerful people providing cover for it for decades. That's what this story is really about. It's about Epstein working for intelligence organizations, foreign intelligence in particular, in order to gather blackmail on powerful decision makers and policymakers in our country, and use that blackmail as leverage in order to influence US foreign policy. That's the story. That's what I want Raskin to maybe hyper focus on. I get that he hates Trump, I get it. But expand your horizons a little bit past your hatred for Donald Trump. I'm sure that you might find other things in there that are incriminating in regard to Donald Trump. I don't really care to focus on one person and one person only for political purposes. I want answers. And I want answers when it comes to all the various bad actors in positions of power in this country. Heads should roll. Now, it's worth noting that the latest file dump by the Department of Justice included a document also indicating that on the same day that the FBI opened a child sex trafficking case against Epstein in 2018, that was the same day that he ordered 55 gallons or 55-gallon containers filled with sulfuric acid to be delivered to his private island. If you're not familiar with sulfuric acid and what criminals like to use it for, it's known to dissolve human bodies, including bones. Hey, but you know what? According to various people in Trump's administration, nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Batya Ungar-Sargon went on CNN with a straight face, said, there's no indication of criminality here. This is boring, I'm bored, right? I'm not bored. I'm furious, and anyone in media or politics telling you, oh, this is nothing. Americans don't care about this. Scott Jennings is another one on CNN. The American people don't care about this. Really? Seems like the American people do care about this, which is why Congress was compelled to pass legislation requiring the DOJ to release the documents. And anyone who's trying to minimize or belittle what we're learning is super suspect. Let's just leave it there.
Every time you ring the bell below, an angel gets his wings. Totally not true, but it does keep you updated on our live shows.